Hey, how's it going guys? It's Nate here. And Skyrim is a game filled with lore and stories to be told. From weird tentacle monsters to talking dogs, there is no shortage of interesting scenarios that can be found in this vast open world. However, not all of the tales that Skyrim tries to tell are left entirely completed, and sometimes Bethesda leaves us with a cliffhanger or abrupt mystery rather than a certain conclusion. So whether it's confusing nightmares or strangely sentient mud crabs, today we'll be taking a look at 5 more Skyrim mysteries. Starting off, Rennell is the Altmer priest of Arche living in Falkreath, and we've talked about him before on this channel in a previous video, where we discussed characters that had dark pasts. You see, Rennell asks you to retrieve a journal for him in a quest, and in that journal, he reveals that he actually used to be a Thalmor soldier back in the Great War. But after the war ended, rather than withdraw back to the Somerset Isles, he sort of just decided to settle down in Falkreath, and never really told anybody about his past. But that's not why he's in this video. You see, in his journal entry, Rennell also describes some very strange dreams. Take a listen. 20th of Sun's Height. Dreams of the war again. But this time something different. I was leading a small band of Aldmeri battle mages on a mission deep into the heart of Imperial territory. We had drawn near our target, a supply depot, when the sky suddenly darkened and a great shadow passed over us. There was a roar so terrible it chilled my blood. Something was flying over us, so huge and so dark as to blot out the sun. The dream changed. Then I was here in Falkreath, performing a service for someone who had just passed away, though I don't recall for whom. From the corner of my eye, I saw a stranger approaching. I turned to look, but then the shadow came again, and the roar, and then I just awoke. Now that I reflect on the dream, I cannot help but wonder, was it a dragon? Why would I dream of such a creature when I had never seen one? It seemed so real at the time, but now the memory is fading. What it means, I can't say. Probably nothing. Rennell seems to have been having visions that foreshadowed the return of the dragons. However, the possibility that he was seeing something else isn't entirely ruled out. Furthermore, who was the character that approached him when he was giving the service? Was it the Dragonborn? And more importantly, why would Rennell of all people be having these strange dreams? Why not the Dragonborn himself, or a Greybeard, or somebody that at least has the possibility to inflict change? If a god is trying to give people strange visions, you'd think they'd try and target somebody who could actually do something with them. Whatever they mean, why ever he has them, the true nature of Rennell's dreams is certainly a mystery worth looking into. And number 2, Alea the Huntress and Skjor are 2 prominent members of the Companions' inner circle, and they might be a bit more than just comrades in arms. Take a listen to this bit of dialogue between Alea and another companion.
Heard some rumors about you and Skjor.
And if you want to keep having ears, you'll pretend you didn't.
Is it not allowed?
It's not exactly forbidden, but even so, it's not true. So that's that.
Considering the Companions is a guild with a membership of about 20 people, you'd imagine these whispers would be taken very seriously. However, Alea utterly denies any accusations regarding her involvement with Skjor. However, the 2 are evidently at least up to something considered socially dubious, as when they are both together, Alea and Skjor may have the following conversation.
Tonight's hunt?
I've been thinking, we need to be more discreet.
There's nothing wrong with what we're doing.
You know the old man doesn't like it. Let's just not be too obvious.
So they at least enjoy hunting together privately, which goes against the norms of the Companions, but we're left unsure if anything more is truly going on. Now there was quite a bit of cut content from the Companions' questline, so perhaps Bethesda intended for this little dynamic between the pair to be better fleshed out. Next we'll be covering something a bit more humorous and rather silly. Head over to North Shore Landing on the northern coast of Solstheim, and you'll find an old dock, currently overrun by mud crabs. The game doesn't do a good job at explaining why, but as you fight your way through an impromptu army of crustaceans, there will be one that particularly sticks out. A unique mud crab with the custom name of Old Salty will join his allies in attacking the Dragonborn. Old Salty has some fairly decent stats for his kind, but he and the rest shouldn't be too hard to dispatch of. However, a look into Old Salty's inventory once he's dead will reveal that his name and stats weren't the only thing unique about him. On his body, he'll carry a tankard, pair of shoes, a gem depending on your level, and some gold. A radically different selection of loot compared to what most mud crabs have to offer. Old Salty's name and belongings are never explained in the game. In fact, the entirety of North Shore Landing isn't even touched by any quests. However, some have speculated that Old Salty might be a clever reference by Bethesda to a merchant that could appear in The Elder Scrolls 3. Back in Morrowind, one of the vendors you could buy and sell from was actually a living, talking, friendly mud crab. He was also one of the richest merchants in the entire game, and said to have had a heavy alcohol problem. This would explain the tankard as well as the gems and gold in Old Salty's inventory. But regardless, that's just the prevailing theory. Perhaps this is all one giant Mr. Krabs reference. Coming in at number 4, we have the Deadwood Cutter. In the pine forest, just north of Pine Watch, you can find a meticulously well set up scene. A series of freshly cut tree logs lined up together. On one of their stumps is a tipped over tankard being swarmed by some ants. Somebody's obviously been out here gathering lumber. But where is he now? Well, just next to a nearby, and still standing, tree, you can find the corpse of a Breton lumberjack, simply named Woodcutter. A look at his body suggests he died right as he was preparing to swing his axe at a tree. However, mysteriously, he just sort of collapsed there. His axe is actually a unique one, an iron battle axe named the Woodsman's Friend. It does slightly more damage than your average battle axe, but at the cost of taking longer to swing. The cause of the woodcutter's death is anything but clear. Nearby his body there's a den of wolves. However, wolves would have likely been far more messy with their prey. There's also a necromancer no further than a few more meters away from the scene, but a necromancer almost definitely would have taken the corpse for himself, so our usual suspects don't provide any answers. However, there are 2 books in the game that may provide us with a bit of insight. The books The Woodcutter's Wife and The Cabin in the Woods both describe a woodcutter's wife becoming cursed after decapitating a mage who is living with them in their cabin in the pine forest. After getting his head chopped off, the mage with his final breath quickly cursed the wife, condemning her to rise again after her mortal passing, and roam the woods for eternity with an axe. Presumably also killing people. It's alluded she does that. Considering the corpse we find is in the same forest that these stories take place, and the name recognition between the woodcutter's wife and woodcutter, it's possible that there could be some relation here. Either that or he just went into cardiac arrest. And finally, last on this list is a bit more of a popular one, and that's how did Volthuril make his way into Blackreach in the first place? Volthuril is a large, brightly colored dragon that is somewhat hidden to normal players. He'll only spawn in the game after the players use the unrelenting foreshout on the large artificial light sphere that illuminates the debate hall of Blackreach. He'll fly out of nowhere, seeming to awake out of a slumber, and proceed to attack the Dragonborn as he tries to navigate his way through this dwarven ruin. Most of us have probably heard of this hidden boss, but the real mystery is, how did he get here anyway? Blackreach is a massive, deep underground dwarven ruin that's only accessible by small tube-like elevators, that there is no way this dragon, or Alduin for that matter, could find a way to squeeze themselves through. So one of the more prevalent theories is that Volthuriel made his way into Blackreach long ago, with Dwemer's support. He could have been enslaved by the technologically advanced civilization, or perhaps he went willingly as part of a deal of sorts he made. But when the dwarven city-states began to collapse, Volthuriel was left trapped, and considering dragons don't age or starve, he had quite the waiting game ahead of him. Only now, thousands of years later, when the Dragonborn decides to come into his house and start shouting at things, does he have a chance for real challenge. But on that note, we are going to wrap up. If you enjoyed the video, like ratings are as always very much appreciated.